So as I've been talking about consciousness, a lot of us returning to God, Christ, Buddha, consciousness, a lot of us waking up, right? The awakening that's happening is how a lot of people describe it. I'm fine to describe it that way as well. Some of the questions I've been asked is number one, why? Right? People have asked me, if we are God consciousness that came here and wanted to forget in order to incarnate as these physical beings and be fully immersed in this reality, even though it's ultimately an illusion and we can never escape that's an illusion, that the real truth is that we're all God consciousness, we're all one, like on the deeper reality, why would we be awakening? And it could be random, right? Like, from my understanding, what I've come through life, really, when you think about it, it's actually hilarious how kind of ridiculous it is that we are God consciousness. We deluded ourselves in order to create this illusion so that we could believe that we're an individual, and we created like the ego and all this so that we could be immersed in this to have like experience. Like, it's the grandest trick that you could ever, the greatest story that you could ever tell in order to just have like basic experiences, like being able to feel the sun on your skin, or be able to like pet a cat in your house, or like drink water, right? So, or like hug a loved one. But why? Why would we be awakening? Now, if there was a why, I'm not saying there is a why, but I'm saying the why that I would think of, or the why that I would come to understand, the reason why. One, this has happened before throughout history. And so I think it is somewhat random, right? Like, for instance, my awakening, I would say, has been random up until the point I was beyond the point where everything clicked and all the puzzle pieces that have been laid for so many years, really, which was my entire life, finally all clicked in and it all made sense and it all just like came together and connected, and it was like 20/20 vision looking backwards. Then I knew it was all meant to be. I knew every single interaction, every high, every low, every loss, every gain. Every time I was low and just down and just thought like, why? And every time I was high and impassioned and, thought I was on top of the world, and love, loss, right? Like questioning, doubting, seeing, right? The truth, seeing signs, whatever. All of that was meant to be. And the reason that was meant to be is because that's what led me to the awakening in the 2020 that I could look back and see it all with clarity, right? It just makes sense. So the why, in my opinion, for why we are awakening is that I think it could potentially be random, but if I had to give it a why, I would say it's because we are at a point in human history where our awareness can be so high because of our technology, because these cell phones, because I can get on a phone right now and basically talk about these types of things, and it can potentially get out to thousands, if not like millions of people potentially. I think we're at the height of that, and I also think we're at the height of destruction. We are at a point in human history where our technology and our weapons are so advanced that we can suppress, enslave, indoctrinate, and damage ourselves and just life in general, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, like literally wiping life off the planet. Like, we have the capacity with our weapons that if a real war broke out and tons of countries were fighting and they really wanted to destroy each other, that we could probably destroy all of humanity, if not most of humanity, in like a blink of an eye, within like a couple of weeks, maybe not even that, and destroy a bunch of life on the planet along with it. So I think because we are at that height, and I think we are also at the height of technology where we are being bombarded, right? We are being bombarded day in and day out with news and propaganda, and we have this technology now where we can also have the opposite of awakening, enlightenment, people who are spiritual teachers, people who are seeing through these veils, seeing through all this propaganda, right? Seeing through the matrix, really, right? And being able to communicate this to people. You have these two powerful forces both balancing each other out. It's like a giant teeter-totter that's been going on throughout history, and now it's at like getting to even higher highs of like dark and light, right? Good, evil, dark, light, kind of the opposite spectrums, right? Control, enslavement, freedom, and liberation of humanity, right? Like, we have these at such a high degree. I think that's kind of why we are in a period of awakening. And I feel like it's like a safety net mechanism, a deeper wisdom and consciousness that is trying to bring people back to it so that we can hopefully, potentially, save ourselves from ourselves and not completely destroy ourselves, or at least destroy a lot of life. Number two, some people have questioned or been asking, like, would there be resistance to this, right? Like, why is there, if that's the case and all these things are there, why does it feel like we are in these systems of oppression or enslavement or control if we just came here in consciousness and we're all one and we're here meant to experience? The reason why I'd say there is resistance to this, the powers that be don't want you to be awake, they don't want consciousness to wake up, they don't want us to be more conscious, is because we are easier to enslave and control. We are easier to manipulate when we are not awake, when we are not as conscious, when we are not tapping into ourselves, when we are relying upon a middleman to reach God, to reach consciousness, to come back to ourselves, and to have that connection. That is a way to control and manipulate. Whether we have to go through a pastor, whether we have to go through a politician, whether we have to go through an institution like a church or a religion, whenever there's any kind of middleman putting themselves in between and saying, I am this middleman, you cannot reach God, you cannot reach enlightenment, you cannot reach consciousness unless you come through me. It is a way of control and manipulation. And these powers that be, they have worked very hard to embed themselves in this material world, right? For over time, these families, these people that have gotten so lost in the sauce, honestly, like they've gotten so into money and numbers on a screen and material possessions like yachts and women and sex and clothing and jewelry and houses and mansions and control, being able to try and control life, control humanity, even when this universe and this world, there's so much chaos and unknown and things are constantly changing. You see how insane that sounds? Someone trying to control the world, control humanity whenever it flows and it changes and it's a naturally evolving, flowing thing. That's what life is. That's what the universe is. And they're trying to like suppress it and choke it out, choke it to death, control it to death. That is what's happening with the resistance, right? That is why there's going to be forces. There have been forces and there are forces now that are going to not want people awake, that are going to try and resist awakening, that are going to see people who are speaking about consciousness and awakening as a threat. We're talking about a direct connection, I'm saying, to God's source, to consciousness, the things I've been speaking about. The reason for that resistance is because it threatens them. It threatens their positions of power. It threatens their 3D world. It threatens the matrix that they have all ensnared us into, that they want to keep us within. Because when you reach this awakening and you reach this consciousness, you realize that you are free. You're not just free on a physical level, you are free emotionally, mentally, spiritually, most importantly. That nothing can enslave you unless you agree to it. Nothing can enslave you on that soul level, that spiritual level, unless you give your consent to allow that to happen. And we are giving our consent left and right of our own enslavement. We are setting up our own traps and we are walking right into it. That's what's happening with this matrix and the AI and the technology and surveillance state, all these wars, all this stuff. That's what we are being set up to do. These people with more money and more power, more control, they want more money, more power, and more control. They want more fame, more power, more money, more sex, more control. All these twisted, corrupted, deviant people and things we've been hearing about, all these things that are being revealed, these things are coming to a head. And that's what I was talking about earlier with the teeter-totter. So the awakening, in my opinion, it is happening. The why is because it's a safety net and it's a way for us to wake up and potentially save ourselves. And there's going to be resistance to this because the powers that be do not want people awake. They do not want people truly liberated and free. But are they going to succeed? Ultimately, in my opinion, no. From what I've seen, it's inevitable that humanity, it's going to keep pushing for freedom. It's going to keep pushing for liberation. And we are going to find that eventually. It's just a matter of time and how and when and how things turn out and timings and things like that. So anyway, hope you find this helpful. More videos are coming. Love and peace to you all. Have a great one.